Hello, this is Mark McGuire, the Chair of the Block Island Housing Board, and I am going to call this meeting of the Housing Board on June 24th at 4 p.m. to order. Our first, we always do that with zoning, but okay, that's all right. Our first item is public input. Do we have any public input? Doesn't sound like it. Okay, second item is act to approve minutes of May 27th, 2025. So I'll make a motion to approve those minutes. Actually, it's minutes from May 27th as well as the April meeting. There are two sets of minutes. So I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May and April. Any discussion? All in favor? Item number 3 is review and approve the financial reports from both April and May. I'll make a motion to approve the financial reports from April and May. Second first. Okay. Any discussion? Thanks, Chris. All in favor of approving the minutes from April, the financial reports from April and May? Aye. Okay, agenda item number 4. Review and act on the O'Brien housing configuration, direction for architects and potential public input meeting. I thought I had the latest. What do you guys have? Do you have it before review? Yeah, I think, yeah. Okay. Okay, so the intent for this agenda item is to decide several things about the O'Brien development. First is, do we want to change the configuration of the buildings and go back to zoning? And I would add to that, that in addition to just going back to zoning, and I looked at the history of our zoning approval, it took only 3 months from when we submitted our application to when it was approved. However, the application was 150 or 60 pages long, and it required a lot of engineering work. So we would have to redo a lot of the engineering if we were going to do a different configuration of the buildings. And by different configuration, I mean, do we want to do 4 buildings instead of 8? Do we want to do 2 buildings instead of 8? Those are the things we have to think about and talk about. Again, I don't think zoning would take a long time, although it would push us definitely into next year if we wanted to, before we start anything. But I think the engineering work might take a while. We'd have to hire an engineer. GM2 does not work for us anymore, so we'd have to hire them. Yes, it would mean going out to bid, and there's a time lag there. Yeah, we've had just some input from architects and to do something more efficient. But I will make a motion to keep the configuration as is, as far as number of buildings. Okay, discussion.
shingled siding and all that. Like, I just don't think that they saw sort of how we saw it. What we had time to give people was just the block version of it. They're not going to look like that.
And just a reminder for everybody to just make sure you turn on and use your mics, because no one will be able to hear you on YouTube.
Sorry about that.
I would agree that we keep the number of buildings the same, and I think the layout of the footprints is fine. Um, um, going through the engineering rigmarole of trying to redesign and replace the buildings is a lengthy process. And I think that the design, the placement of the buildings is well thought out. Where my difference is that I think we can do better on the interior of the buildings. I think we can do, better on and we really didn't get to the exterior architectural details of the buildings. We never really got there. Figured that was down the road. But I think we can do some thoughtful work there.
Okay, so let's address that in a minute. Any other discussion? So all in favor of keeping the configuration as it's laid out now with 8 buildings? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we've also had not public, private input, if you will, based on the drawings as they were presented, which, frankly, they're not like, wow, they don't wow anyone. But people have commented on maybe a dormer here or a little accoutrement or some kind of feature on the front, over the front doors. Yeah, the porch idea. Now, I was looking through the engineering proposal, the engineering work in our application to zoning. The parking is really tight. Not much of a porch is going to go on the front without interfering with parking. But so I did look back at the zoning decision, and the zoning decision is contingent on remaining substantially in line with what we presented. So a small porch overhang, some kind of front feature, I don't think would require us to go to zoning. Again, there's also some room in the back for some permeable patio. And what Cindy just mentioned, the interior. Now, at our last meeting, one of the architects mentioned that there's some inefficiencies in the way the plumbing is laid out.
I think that's really critical. Surprised none of us picked that up, because you definitely want to stack the plumbing.
Yeah.
That will reduce our costs substantially in the construction.
So I would make a motion to ask our volunteer architects to take a look at some frontage features, perhaps some rear features, and also the interior layouts to seek efficiencies and character, if you will. So.
Do we make a motion to look into it as long as it's not, that we don't have to go back to planning and zoning for it?
Yes, sorry. Yes. All of which, I'll amend the motion, all of which does not require us to go back to planning or zoning.
I worry about, not intentionally abusing, but potentially abusing the volunteer help. And they get kind of caught in both, back and forth. We don't think this is right. Like, give us your best effort and we'll take it under consideration and do it within 2 months.
I was going to say less than that, but yeah, 1 month, I'd be happy with 1 month. I think given where we are now, they could quickly look at it and eyeball things, and with these few points that we've given them, I think they could quickly take a look. Now, if they ask us and say, give us 6 weeks or something else, then yeah, but in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah, so it's, plumbing's above the kitchen.
So is there, well, so maybe we should clean up that motion.
Stack units are so small.
All right.
While we're still discussing, we aren't really discussing it.
Right.
Get a motion, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion for myself and Josh to, I am withdrawing the other motion, yeah. So I'll make a new motion for myself and for myself and with Josh's help to draft 3 primary points of direction for our volunteer architects, those being features on the front, for example, a porch, features on the back, for example, permeable patio, and review of interior for efficiencies, particularly as it applies to plumbing. And we'll ask the architects for their recommendations and ideas within a period of 4 to 6 weeks. Any discussion?
Yes, I just want to expand on the idea. So we had Barbara Bester do the bulk of the work thus far. Who else are you thinking of reaching out to? And is it counterproductive or awkward to have multiple voices? I'm just asking, I don't have an opinion. I'm just asking if we're creating a good work environment, or is it, could it be challenging?
Did Barbara Bester offer her services? Were they like volunteer or how did you hire her?
To date, it has been volunteer. I think there, a long time ago, there was some discussion if she was actually going to produce working drawings.
Yeah.
That we would need to compensate her.
Okay.
To date, I think it's been mostly conceptual. I think because we were going the modular route, the modular company has to make their own drawings, to fit their.
Shop drawings.
Right. So that's why we don't have
We have
engineered
conceptual drawings.
We have conceptual drawings, not engineered drawings.
Well, shouldn't we just check with Barbara first before we ask anyone else?
I don't think that having constructive criticism from other architects is really stepping on anybody's toes. We'd still have Barbara do the drafting work. So if we're just speaking to some volunteer people in the trade who are offering some constructive advice, we can take all that, summarize it, and bring it to Barbara. She could still do all the work. So I don't think we'd be, stepping on anybody's toes.
And I did speak with Barbara, or message with Barbara, about this effort, and she's more than happy to, step in and do some things, do some tweaks. I told her it's not big things, it's tweaks.
She has been compensated to a certain extent, her company has been, not for her work, but for her employee work. So there's been, she has charged us for that work, so she covers the cost of those people and
Yeah.
staff. Just make that clear.
I don't remember, but I'll defer to your memory rather than mine.
Okay, so any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, the next point is a little bit more, I don't know, Josh might have some better insight on this. People, again, just comments. People have talked about the building might look better with a dormer here or there. Do we want to even think about that? I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, and I don't know how much it's going to add to cost. I mean, I know what it cost me to do something like that, but but yeah, but they can do
System, and these have attics, so a dormer would be like
just a,
essentially up in the attic.
Yeah. okay. So-
And it would interfere with, if it's on the south facing side, it would interfere with the photovoltaic arrays that are being planned for these buildings. And it would reduce the amount of space available, and structurally it would be problematic. It wouldn't be a positive, but it would be.
It'll cost more.
Yes, it'll cost, it will definitely cost more.
I think
So-
the money would probably be better spent on some architectural interest on the lower portion of the
Yeah.
house, like we talked about, like an overhang or.
Yeah, all right.
It's functional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Functional and looks good.
perfect. So we don't even need to talk about that anymore. So another question is, this final question about, so we will need to deal finally with whether we're going to do all sales or all rentals. I'm sorry, all sales or half and half sales and rentals. Have people thought about that more? And the question is, when do we need to decide that? Do we need to decide, will it change any architecture if it's rentals or sales?
I do think we need to think about that, because if there's gonna be HOA fees, and some of them are gonna be paid by rental and some of them are gonna be paid by the people for sales, that there should be some difference. Like these two buildings here and these two buildings here, so that maybe we could separate the fees so that the rentals are paying one and the other ones are paying one. Like,
Okay.
so half and half works, but maybe not two, and, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
that
gonna
would-
be
It would be difficult.
thing we talked about in the beginning was, how are we gonna differentiate the
Right.
Right.
for sale and the rentals, because it's a different animal.
Yeah, it would-
And I think that's where legal expertise comes in, because how you set that up
Yeah.
fundamentally. And I recall, it's a long time ago, but I think the lawyers were saying it's not the easiest thing.
Yeah.
But
Half and half might be, because then you might be able to split it. I don't know.
Or the other thought that I had, just spitballing and throwing this out. If we have 8 buildings, what if we sold 6? And 2 were retained by the housing board.
Like sold to us.
Yes, so then it's just one homeowners association, or whatever the number is, then it changes the economics of it. But it's just one homeowners association. The buildings that we maintain, we would then be responsible for whatever the homeowners fees are,
Mhm.
rather than 2 distinct.
and then,
Just a thought.
and then people would be sending their rent checks to us or to our, whatever that
our-
monitor, whatever it's called.
Our marketing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but we would retain ownership of X number of units. It's all the same.
Yeah.
So I sense that people we think we should decide this sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I also think, when you and I talked about this briefly, and Cindy can, I've sold a lot of the Saw Pond settlement units. I lived in one. I sold it so I could buy my house. It worked out that way for me and another couple. I think it's important for us, if we're gonna do them for sale, that people are they're not disqualified from someday getting a house.
Yeah.
So we look at it as a stepping stone, whereas you might live in it for 3 years, you get yourself settled, you're doing well, you're paying your own mortgage, you build up some equity that might help you buy the next affordable project that comes up. So people aren't gonna buy them if they think they can get a house someday. So we need to take that not away from them. So somehow in our legal wording, have them not be struck out from getting the next affordable housing
Well, if we're not
situation.
getting federal money, we should be able to make our own rules.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like someone lives in it for 3 years, then we do another project and they win the lottery, or they, apply for it, win the lottery. and then they can get in it, then they sell that one, and then someone else goes into it. And it might help them with their down payment because they're paying their own mortgage and their equity, like they sell it for the right rate, you know?
The
They're not-
timing is the challenging thing.
Yeah.
With a situation like
Yeah,
that.
These are gonna be.
there's bridge
controlled
loans though.
pricing.
People will do bridge loans.
These are gonna be controlled pricing homes, just like.
Yeah, but you're paying as you pay it down, like if you lived in it for 3
Yeah, I'm
years, you're
just
paying your
making sure
mortgage.
that no one thinks that, you know, they're gonna. be-
No, they're not gonna make
So-
$2 billion off of it, but they will walk away with something because they're paying it
Yeah,
down.
equity.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the point that is being made is that they were not even allowed to
Yeah.
enter the lottery because
Yes.
they already owned a
Right.
home.
I mean, I tried to
So
talk
that
so
was
many of my
the-
friends into buying a South Bend settlement year-round unit, and regardless of the HOA fees, they're gonna be, hopefully lower here, but they don't wanna buy it because then they would lose the opportunity to maybe get the house that's up someday. And that we're gonna run into that problem if people think that. So,
Professional opinion, do you think that these are marketable and saleable?
to people,
To people?
yes, as long as they're not disqualified from someday getting a house.
So that.
I think,
otherwise you-
I think that was the number one reason, because in their head, they're like, well, what if I wanna get married and have a family someday and have kids? I don't wanna be stuck in this 1-bedroom
Sure.
apartment,
Mhm.
I might wanna, well, but
Yeah.
that's the issue. And I know that Salt Pond Settlement has its flaws, but it was super successful for the 10 of us that got units. Dennis has lived there for 10+ years. Danielle's lived there and they've both done businesses here. Charlie and Tara, Turtle and Heather and I were able to sell them and use the money to buy a house. Like they were the stepping stone for us that made us want to stay here and have our lives here and, be involved in businesses and help the community. So I feel like that sort of has to be,
I think that's excuse me, with the exception of timing, I think that's a pretty easy fix to our deeds.
yeah.
And we already have resale provisions in our deeds. So, yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Still be year round and all that, but,
Yeah.
take that restriction. Cause I think that's what stops people from committing.
So do we want to decide the sales rental mix? Now, I guess the other point I'll make before I ask that question. I did talk to the town, to Jen Brady today, and the official count of the 513s right now is 70. 70 registered 513s, if that affects our decision. So, so the question is, do we want to make that decision now? Don't
I
need to
think
make
we
it.
should think about it.
Okay.
We should advertise that as the agenda item,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
public input.
Yeah.
Might affect our decision.
Okay. So that's the next bit of this agenda item is there have been some suggestions we should have a public input meeting. I mean, one could say the financial town meeting was that, but that's not really the case. We should have a meeting to just have people focus on this and take their input, and just have it be only that.
I bet this room will be pretty filled. I'll just say, if that's the agenda, when we tried to do that 5 years ago at the school was pretty filled in the cafeteria.
It's filled for that warrant vote too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it would be important if, it would be a little bit of a delay, but if we're not making a decision about the percentage of rentals and sales, I think when we have this public input meeting, we should be fairly far along on the floor plan, the visuals,
Mhm.
so that people can actually react to what it is, can they envision themselves being in there, or, what changes need to be made. So I think we should be able to present something.
Yeah, I agree.
So this would be post sort of input from architects.
That would be my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I know we're on a timing factor here, but it is summer. Public input might be a little less.
Is this something we,
active summer,
Be,
'cause
if
people-
we could time it so that we had actually something to really talk about in September.
September.
Yeah.
perfect.
Would be
We could
great.
Yeah. time
okay.
for that.
I think that's ideal. I think that would give the architects plenty of time. What do people think about that?
I think September's a perfect time.
Okay,
because people are here, they're,
Yeah, new starts in September.
yeah.
we're happier.
So like so like a week or two after Labor Day, like 2 weeks after Labor Day or something like that. Yeah, okay. I have to leave September 15th. Okay. Perfect. Okay, does that need do we need a motion for that? No, okay. So, any other discussion about, the O'Brien Affordable Housing Development? I, I'm sorry,
We have to-
we're going to develop points, and circulate. Yep. Okay, any other input on, O'Brien? And, I don't think that we've heard back from any of our developers or builders, I mean, and that's probably a good thing because we might change things now, so. Right.
I'd like to suggest that you and I or somebody have a discussion with Church Community Housing just to keep us in front of them.
Absolutely. So I think at an earlier meeting, maybe a few months ago, we formed a subcommittee with you and I to talk to Church. So we can do that.
Because even if they both let the warrant pass, they were very congratulatory of how that is very important. So I think we should make sure that we understand whether or not they're still interested in partnering.
Okay.
Move on to something else.
Got it. Okay. Agenda item number 5, receive a website update. And Chris sent out a really cool visual.
Visionary, I get notices from Visionary sometimes like a day about before the meeting, can you meet tomorrow? And
Yeah.
I can't schedule. So I said, you say yes. And at this point, since it's still preliminary, I feel that it's okay just to have that meeting with Mr. Bromwell to get the conceptuals going. I do have some notes from yesterday's meeting. And I just wanted to update you with that. The hosting is set up. Forms are being developed. Allison's form for eligibility or interest in housing may be needed to be reduced in length in order to make it usable. It's a long form, and he's trying to balance qualifying and not alienating people. So I understand that, we're just trying to get interest, and then if they do want to move on to the next step of actually, registering, we can get more detailed information from them. Anyways, that's the strategy at this point. The other question that he had was, do we have permissions for the photos that I sent that you gave me? So we have to have a release form for those, or he has to use stock images. So we'll have to ask those people in those photos if we can use them for our website.
Yeah, we can do that. They all knew what we were doing, so they were all in.
Sure.
So shouldn't be a problem.
That's his job to ask questions like that. He asked about the Weston and Sampson report and access to it, and I told him I thought that, in my opinion, access to that report was very important because it describes our situation in affordable housing from an outside source out of Massachusetts to not the housing board, but the planning. So it's pretty independent and removed from us. And I think that it's important that people can find that report easily. So that's my opinion. I'm just telling you how we're going through here.
So I think that would be an easy ask because the planning board is the one that hired them to do that stuff, right? So we can just ask them. I'm sure they would.
Well, it's public information.
Okay, there we go. So we can just link it.
So what I did is I did a mock-up of a web page on these things and put all these links into there for his consideration or for Visionary's consideration. So there's a link there, it's accessible, and we can tell people what that report is.
We should also include the Roger Williams report. Is that who does it? the Rhode Island Housing, I don't want to say Rhode Island Housing, the agency, but doesn't Roger Williams put out that, yeah, annual report? We should we should show the link to that.
Did you have questions on the veracity of the data in there, though? I thought that it was kind of questionable.
I thought we did, I thought we did a year ago, but then the recent one, I didn't, I thought it looked good, but I didn't study it. But nevertheless, it's also a public report. So,
Question on donations. They would like to set up a PayPal account for small cash donations, and our question to the board is, should we do this? Because do we historically get small cash donations? Just wanted some feedback from the board whether or not PayPal account for us is necessary. Visionary strongly recommended it. Venmo, we did not discuss in too much detail, although Venmo is owned by PayPal now, so.
which is why I don't use it.
I said, I believe there's very few cash donations, but then his question was, what about in the donation page, getting off of PayPal, what about in-kind donations? Something, Millie, that you had talked about. And should we focus on in-kind donations first? I thought there was more to be gained from that than setting up a PayPal account for people giving us $10, $20, $50. In the donation page, there would be large contributions of land, property, money would be handled differently than small cash donations and be handled differently than in-kind services. So the question is then, on in-kind services, is there previous experience within this town that we know of or how the town solicited or received in-kind services? Does anybody have any information that I don't?
I have no idea. No. But I think our donate button should include all of those things.
I just don't. I kind of feel like if someone wants to give $5 towards housing,
Absolutely.
they should be able to. Just because they can't give 5,000 or 500 doesn't make it not meaningful.
Yes.
I mean, you might have a lemonade stand that wants to give the $100 they made that day or $25.
Concepts did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I just,
Okay.
everything adds up, so it can't hurt for us to get,
So, who do we talk to about something like that? Is that the finance department? Yeah. Yeah.
She's the primary contact, and she would probably talk with the town manager. About that. Was that for this? That's for me. Only a few more things here, folks. Sorry. Mark, you and I, there's some comments that went out for you, but I think we've gone through most of them. The question is on frequently asked questions. If people could get back to me with what they think frequently asked questions would be about what we're doing. We don't have to discuss it here and take up time. If you could just email them, I can create an FAQ page for Visionary, and it will expand as time goes on. But just to get this started.
Yeah.
I'm a little vague on what questions.
It's if someone's looking at the website.
Someone's looking at the website and so they're going to ask about
No, it's
eligible,
no,
or are they asking about what we're doing? What
the FAQs section, just on my website.
They go to a page and it
Yeah.
says frequently asked questions so that we're not getting, so like it'll say like, how many projects have you done? And then when they click on it, it gives them the information.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Is it questions about what the board is doing and accomplishing, or is it questions about eligibility for projects and?
Would think.
It'd be all of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so-
Sometimes there's like
All that.
10 of them.
Yeah.
And it's just easier so they're not having to email us every little question. They're the
Okay.
ones that everyone's asking.
Okay.
Yeah. then we
When I
can-
was teaching in New York, we trained about 10,000 electricians, engineers and installers on solar electric over 5 years. We decided to do an FAQ because we were getting so many of the same questions over and over again.
Sure.
And so we made a dynamic FAQ when we got so many it would go right in
Yeah,
there
yeah.
and people could sort.
So
I
I'll
use
go
it all
right
the
up here
time.
I
in
do
the top
too.
tabs here.
I use them
Yeah.
all the time when I'm
It's very helpful.
searching, yeah.
Then I usually go to do all of these answer all your questions, and I say no. 'Cause-
Sometimes they do though.
Yeah.
So if you could please just shoot me an email on what you think what you would
Yeah.
like to see as an FAQ, I can compile them and get them over to
Yeah.
visionary. Right. And then, okay, the contents, the logo contents, if you still think we could do this. I thought it would be kind of good community spirit and building if we could have a logo contest for our website. So I emailed today 8 steps that I thought we could follow for that. I don't know, Mark, if this is something that you would want to leave to the, website development group, or if you would like it to be a board decision as a whole.
I think contests are always a good idea. I mean, we might get 3 people submitting, or we might get 50 people. So, and you're right. I think it's just a community thing. I'm sort of agnostic as to whether the board runs it or some subcommittee runs it, or we do it through the website. I don't know what the most efficient and best way to do it is. Absolutely.
But running,
Right.
just to not get it so confusing, I thought, a couple of people could just run it and run the contest, get the data, get it out to the board for ranking, and then, have the decision made at our next meeting.
Yeah.
'Cause I think we
That
can-
makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that
I
idea.
think the whole
Yeah.
step thing you just did is great.
And do you feel it is okay to ask businesses if they would like to provide prizes for this for this contest? Modest, 100, 15, 25 is what I suggested for first, second, and third. Or should we do this with our internal funds or not do this at all? So if you would like to discuss that.
I think we can handle 175. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I just had another idea, with community support. How about if we asked each real estate company, if they would like to contribute $100, towards this contest, supporting affordable housing. I mean, I don't know. Just seems like,
You're gonna twist it around?
pardon?
You're gonna twist it around?
I'm open to whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
What do you think?
it's fine. I just, yeah, I mean, I think that when you win, you win because your logo goes on this website. And it's
Mhm.
always our logo. So that's part of the prize. I think what he said was 150 and 25 is, I mean, but is the first person just winning or all 3 winning or?
I would just suggest the top 3,
Yeah.
150, 25, just an appreciation that
Mhm.
people would actually, I've already, I talked to
I
people about
mean-
this. Someone just whipped up something that I thought was very clever. And I was like, okay, well, wait.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like maybe $100 at the grocery store or, that might be, we might want to look into that or $50 from a restaurant or Aldo's ice cream or,
Maybe restaurant gift certificate,
Yeah.
would be.
I mean,
Well, that'll get you there. Okay.
I'm sure that would be an easier, don't you think?
I think it's a great idea. I don't really have any thoughts about amounts and
Create a subcommittee and let the subcommittee decide how they want to tackle it.
who wants to volunteer for that subcommittee. Okay. There you go. So.
I mean, I don't know if we need a subcommittee, but I mean, I think anyone will be happy with anything that comes up, but
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we're
I
gonna-
was trying to think of like, what is someone that's doing it, spend the money on?
the easiest
Kids
thing,
involved. It's cash for.
That's true.
prize.
That's true.
What's a kid gonna do with one Jill's certificate or something?
Yeah, you don't know,
True.
kids are pretty sophisticated.
I could use one.
Yeah, I think cash is fine. I mean, I think those numbers are fine for cash. I don't think we need to get bigger than that.
Yeah.
I mean,
So what did we say? What's the total in,
One
Chris?
75.
175 total? Well, in that case, I think we have funds
Spend it.
on hand.
Yeah,
We can
yeah.
spend it.
All right, do we need a motion for that? Yeah, okay.
I'll make a motion that we allocate up to $175 as prize money for the winning logo entry.
Second.
I mean, we could do 200 and it'd be 100 for the first and 50 for the second and third. I mean, $25 is maybe,
Modify that to 200.
yeah. So we do 150, 50.
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Right?
Aye.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. Tomorrow I will put this on the bulletin board. And I'll write something into the block in our pens of letter or. Just, telling people that this is going on. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, we did skip over item number 6. Discuss and act on legal services RFP. And it should be just discuss because we don't have anything to act on yet. That being said, so I just wanted to give you an update. So we didn't receive any responses from our RFP. I don't know why that was. It is extremely onerous, I'll have to say. I mean, I worked on RFPs for the federal government, and this is almost just as difficult. So, so I tried to modify it a bit and shorten it and emphasize the requirement is only like a 3 to 5 page submission with some experience. And I sent that to the town manager for her review and approval. So we'll wait to hear back, and then I hope to re-release it the end of this week and ask for responses by July. I think I said July 18th. Because the fact of the matter is we need legal counsel, particularly as we move forward with the sales, rentals, how we manage it and all that stuff. So that's all I have to report there. We did, like I said, we didn't get any responses to the initial RFP. So we'll do it again. And I reached out. So our old council recommended 2 people. So I reached out to both of them. I spoke with both of them before we released the RFP, the last RFP. They both said they were very interested. Neither one responded, and now they've ghosted me. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but we'll see.
Thanks for trying.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Oh, we have to find someone somewhere. So that's all I have on that. And then item number 8. Does anybody have anything we need to address in closed session? Any opportunities or anything we'd like to discuss? Okay, I am going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
No, kidding.
Thank you, everybody.
You.